Hello there, and welcome to my new podcast in an ever-growing sea of podcasts. For those of you who have no idea who I am, I'm a 10-year YouTube veteran on a small channel of about 5,000 subs by the handle Anubis 2814 that started out focusing on atheism and attacking creationism, but over time I began focusing on the psychology of belief, and that moved into more psychology, neurology, and skepticism. Then as politics changed, I began focusing on history and politics, as so much of our politics is based on a cherry-picked historical narrative. As YouTube is all about eyeballs and there is so much to watch that people's times are limited, and I haven't seen any increase in viewership in 5 years after they killed video responses, and they now have rampantly demonetized any video with a whiff of politics, I decided to throw my hat into podcasts. My videos are already pretty podcasty, but I will be posting an actual YouTube video every month, and all these podcasts are going to be there, so if you wish to comment, go to the video you'll find in the show notes and comment there. That said, welcome to my podcast, and on with the show. Today's topic is on a video I saw on Jordan Peterson that just sums up all of his views on leftists. The number 2 video on Big Think was a video by Jordan Peterson called The Fatal Flaw Lurking in American Leftist Politics. And for those of you like me who've gotten sick of him, is just as full of sophist lies as his fake pronoun freakout that rocketed him to fame among the alt-right. First off, he begins his videos equating the left with postmodernism and cultural Marxism, which are of course the exact same thing, and by that I'm being sarcastic. However, the entirety of anthropology was impacted by Marx questioning and critiquing the current imperialistic theory at the time. He got several things wrong, and like with anything in science, the anthropologist world made adjustments and eliminated those problems as new science and studies progressed. However, while only a minor part of modern anthropology, his theories are still important tools for anthropologists and archaeologists. If you want to understand how he impacted anthropology, there is a link below. Of course, Peterson equates cultural Marxism with postmodernism, which also doesn't define the left. His gotcha, checkmate leftist point is where he says cultural Marxism and postmodernism doesn't give you a value structure, it just tears down the current one. But postmodernism wasn't supposed to create a value structure. It was literally just a critique of modernism, which was strictly from a white, male, Christian, hetero-European value system. Just as atheism isn't supposed to provide a value structure. It's a critique or disbelief in God. It says nothing about your personal belief system or what you value. You've emptied out perceived bad ideas, so you're ready to fill them in with better ones. You can be a Buddhist, Taoist, secular, Jewish, UU, Satanist, nihilist, or secular humanist, or in a case of totalitarian dictatorial communism, a cult of personality. Those are all still atheist, but their atheism doesn't say what you believe, just as you can be postmodernist, but as he said, that doesn't define what you do believe, just what you don't. It's like saying if you don't believe in leprechauns, then you must believe in nothing because your disbelief in leprechauns doesn't say what you do believe. This is tunnel vision on his part, and he knows it to spread his message. He's a scam artist, pure and simple. He then says, when leftists are pressed, they always default to loose egalitarian Marxism. No, they most often default to secular humanism, which does have a defined set of values, and sometimes they also have Marxism involved. Some just base their idea on the fact that now government-run healthcare, or health insurance, is now half the price it is than in the free market. It's now cheaper to feed everyone than let people starve. It now costs half the price to taxpayers to house people than leave them homeless, and it costs less to fully educate people than to imprison them. This is the wonders of the evolution of automation that Marx predicted, and the travesty of unbalanced capitalism. We would all have so much more and be better and mentally and physically healthier if propaganda didn't lock us into believing in the moral certainty of pure capitalism and the evils of any hint of socialism. Keeping his viewers purposely ignorant of what Marx actually believed and how it's not discredited, while totalitarian non-rights-based planned economy communism is intellectual dishonesty at its worst. According to him, all the great thinkers at the end of the 50s said they couldn't in good conscience be a Marxist. No, they couldn't be a Marxist-Leninist or a Maoist, you liar. They're not the same. Also, at that time, it was pretty much illegal to have any Marxist sympathies in the US, and that may have been true in Western Europe as well, so they had to openly denounce Marx and speak about what they really believed in code. He's just repeating the same bullshit that keeps people in the dark about what Marx even thought. Marx would be appalled by the leaders that ran any nation called communist, except for Chile, which was destroyed by American interference, which we replaced with a fascist one. He then lionizes William F. Buckley. Buckley was a sophist and only pointed out the arguments he wanted to show, just like Peterson. Once again, a scam artist pure and simple. He then attacks equality, diversity, and equity, but attacks equity as the greatest of these evils, which he defines as equal outcomes. Equity on the liberal side is not about equality of outcomes, it's about an equal starting point as everyone else. Read John Rawls, for God's sakes. His theory on equity is clear and coherent. Once you're in the workplace, the best should rise to the top, but until then, there should be a system in place to help you all get to as close to the same starting line as possible. And Peterson's arguments are fake arguments, like the trans-term jailing laws that didn't exist and sprung him to fame among the young pseudo-intellectuals who, because he said complex things peppered with random tidbit facts or truth and personal stories, they ate anything he set up, completely ignorant of what he wasn't telling them, because reality and history are complex as hell, and you pick and choose what complex topics you want to discuss and be completely right about it, but ignore the half that disproves your point. That is sophism, and that is exactly what he is. This is the number 2 video on Big Think. His fans made it go to the top, meaning more eyes can see his lying, misrepresentative garbage. If he was to factually represent the other side's arguments and attack those, that would be fine. There are some, but he knows he can't. Keeping his side ignorant of the other side's actual arguments is so much easier because he doesn't have any real arguments. Sophism killed the labor movement and all the progress we had during the 50s to the 70s, shredding all prosperity we gained from labor and civil rights. And he's cynically making bank off of this tactic and the delusional pseudo-intellectualism his fans believe they have. But he knows they won't actually read Marx or postmodern theory or Rawls, so hey, he won't ever get caught by his fans. He already told them what the other side believes, so why bother? I know enough to make an informed decision, as my Messiah told me. Reading what the other side says is propaganda of the enemy. Jordan Peterson is a liar and a sophist. Stop listening to him. You'll be smarter for it. So, thank you so much for joining me on my first podcast. I'm sure there was nothing controversial about this, and everyone will happily get along in the comments section. Please subscribe, and if your podcast site has the option, give me a like. Give me a like or review. I'll be doing this podcast weekly and try to get out it out on the same day, so I hope to see you here next week, ready to be filled with new ideas. A big thank you goes out to Elias Garcia Guevara and Joe Taylor, who sponsor the show at $10 a month at the Wapawet level on Patreon. Please consider donating as well if you can, and thank you all for listening.